Good morning, everyone. This is not Manic and Chill at your typical time, but it is Christmas Eve. Happy Christmas Eve to those that celebrate. Happy holidays to everybody else. We are coming to you a little bit early this week, Shane, to talk through our 2025 season naughty or nice list. I guess there's players that could be both that were nice, but then they were very naughty in the playoffs and didn't necessarily help you. But we're coming off of the semifinals. We're able to now officially see what teams are not going to advance further, what teams you have to make some moves on, bets that you made that didn't work out, some that might still be alive. But happy Christmas Eve to you, Shane. How are you doing, my friend? And I'll let you go because I know you've had some thoughts on this Week 16 debacle.
Oh, I hate everyone and everything that's ever existed. So at one point, it looked like I had a pretty good chance to go 2-9 in semifinals. And to say I was tilting, I hate that fucking term. To say I was upset would not be a good term. So I ended up salvaging it a little bit and going 5-6. Still not great, but a lot better than 2-9. And one thing you learn about life is you learn how to things are relative. That's what I was going to try to say. Things are relative. No, it was a lot of people were not nice this playoff season. Josh Allen just up and disappeared, decided he didn't want to play. Nico Collins still looking for some points from him. I got yelled at about this. I feel like Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't give me enough the final week, but that's just me. Other people think I'm crazy. It was a fun week 16, right? No, it absolutely wasn't a fun week 16. This is probably one of the worst weeks I've had in fantasy in a while. I did not like it. Did not like it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reminder to everybody is that anything can happen in a given week. I had some teams. I actually did a little better. I think I made 15 out of 24 that made it to the finals.
Nice.
But a few of those were some of my better teams that didn't make it. Two specifically that were the best team all year and just didn't make it. Another one that I was neck and neck for the best record all year. And I'll should give a shout out. It's Terrell. It's in that team defense league that everyone clowned him for only having one. And he absolutely beat the snot out of me in the semifinals with his one defense. And yeah, it just shows that anything can happen. Never count your blessings before they're here, and just 1 week of variance. But some of it swang my way too, so I can't really complain. Definitely had some good teams that get knocked off. I've had 2 6 seeds that are in the finals. 1 6 seed, Shane, that I never even thought I would make the playoffs. It's kind of like you talked about last week, where it was 8th in record. I believe my record, there's a weird some weeks are double headers, some weeks are against the median, whatever. But I believe my regular season record was 8-14, and it made the playoffs. And then it was an all play for the first round of the playoffs. Oh, this team will never make it. Oh, it advanced. Then after the quarterfinals, I traded for Christian McCaffrey. And guess what? That got me to the finals. So here we are. We're like a 6 seed team that literally it is below 500. That is probably the favorite now to win the championship. But that's how the cookie crumbles. Nice. This episode, we're going to talk through naughty and nice. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that my biggest heartbreak was in DGT, 14-0.
Oh, yeah.
Literally
defeated all year.
Beating people in the face every week. Not even close to most weeks. I think there was 1 week where it legitimately was within 10. Every other week, I was just beating the balls off of people. And then this week, literally, I did the math because I was angry. 47 points under projection. I should have won by about 20 something, even with him having some ridiculous high scores. But that's life. That is variance, right? That kind of sucks. There's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes it does go the other way. In the end, it probably does all even out, right? It does.
Is that the league where you were cursing Travis Kelce for deciding to retire during the fantasy playoffs?
Yes, that piece of garbage. That stupid Swiftie out there doing Swiftie dances or something. I don't know what he was doing, but he wasn't playing football. But everybody on that team underperformed. But he was one of the biggest culprits. But anyway, no one cares about our fantasy teams. I'll just say this. I say it just as a comfort to other people because I know other people go through it. because, I tweeted it out and a lot of people chimed in. So, look, this is what happens when you play over a long period of time and you play in enough leagues. It's not going to go well in all of them sometimes. Sometimes there's just going to be bad luck. And then the next year you hope that it goes the other way.
Yeah, a couple things that I think after the season is over, I want to dive a little bit deeper on Dynasty Takeaways. Last night, I talked about the running back versus receiver production. If you're taking away tight ends and quarterbacks, a lot of people play in 1.5 or less premium. That's typically where you can just remove quarterbacks and tight ends. They play their own little position, right? They're not really competing with other positions or running backs or receivers for flex spots. But based on this year so far, Shane, interesting, the receivers not only have been injured more in the flex or starter range, so guys that are at I think I used 14 points per game as the cutoff. The running backs in that range this year thus far have averaged more than a game and a half more games played than the receivers. So just without knowing the circumstances, there's obviously been some season-ending injuries for receivers and running backs. But aside from that, there's more running backs that have played consistently than receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at the number of games where those players have hit 15 or more points in a week. There's been a 15% underage at receivers hitting those relative to running backs. So what I mean is most leagues you have to start 3 receivers. Most leagues you have to start 2 running backs. So you would expect that ratio would be more like 3-2, but it's not quite 3-2. There's been more running backs relative to receivers that have hit those spike weeks. So not only are they healthier, but they're providing you more production, I guess you would call it, in that flex range. So I don't know if that's a takeaway, but it definitely tells me that one of the hypotheses is that these receivers that are not elite have never been less relevant than they have been this year. And now that we have a tool like the Trinity tool, it's a perfect time to be able to say, I don't even need those receivers anymore. Almost to the point where if I have to stream my 3rd, 4th, 5th receiver every week, as long as I can get those guys, right? As long as I can go find the right environments and be able to send a 3rd for, a random receiver and be able to use them for a couple weeks, I'd rather do that than pay up for a receiver that's going to give me 12.5, 13 points per game just because they were a former first-round pick, like a Zay Flowers type. Like instead of paying whatever it costs to get him, which is typically higher than I need to pay if I'm just looking to stream, just kind of skip over that tier. That's one of my hypotheses. But any thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, no, I like that. It's sometimes we all fall in the trap of paying for what feels like safety, right? Oh, it feels safe. I'm going to definitely get 12 points out of this guy. I'm definitely going to get 18 points, 17 points out of that quarterback. And yes, it's nice to have a floor sometimes, but when it's not nice to have a floor? A week like this week where I had a bunch of mid scores. I had not a bunch of teams, but I had a few teams where it was all just like, okay, that's all right. It's decent enough scoring. So I'm fine with maybe embracing a little bit more of the variance at the wide receiver position instead of the false belief that I can predict which wide receiver 2 and which wide receiver 3 is going to be the most consistent every week.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally go through the names, and even some of the guys that you would say if their environment was better or their quarterback was better, that they could be better. They still haven't given you that difference-making production. It's been good, but not like great or really good. You know what I mean? You mentioned Nico Collins. That's one. Chris Olave is another one that he's had a good season. But if I'm going to buy Chris Olave at his price, that's going to be, I think you mentioned it maybe last week or the week before as a guy you want to buy. Sure, you'll buy some Chris Olave when he's wide receiver 12 prices. That now he has to go to a different level for that to even pay off, right? Because if you tell me he just gives you what he gives you this year, I probably don't want to pay the market price if he's wide receiver 12 or wide receiver 15 or whatever it might be in the offseason. So something for the future. Next week, we will do an episode talking through some dynasty resolutions that we want to make for 2026, maybe some different ways we will approach things in 2026, macro and micro. But I want to focus the rest of the episode, just the naughty or nice list. I just want to talk about players. And if we bring up a player, we can talk about kind of what their environment looks like going forward. Are they buys? Are they sells? Are they players you're excited to roster going into the offseason? Do you not know what to do with them? Where do you want to start? I was going to go position by position, but really we can just start throwing out players. You want me to start or you want to start?
No, you go. You shoot.
Well, I have to start with the nice list for this year. Currently the quarterback 5 now and is probably one more game away for potentially being maybe even quarterback 2. He's not going to catch Josh Allen, but none other than Trevor Lawrence, Shane, is quarterback 5. Now, to be fair, his quarterback 5 this year, where do you think that would have ranked in last year's quarterback production? Any guess?
QB 9.
Would have been quarterback 7, but there were
Close.
6 quarterbacks last year that were at basically 21 points per game. And this year, he is quarterback 5, and he is sitting at 19.5 points per game. So, you know, a depressed quarterback scoring season. We only have literally one quarterback above 21, and 21 would have put you quarterback 5 or 6 last year. So it's been a down year for quarterback scoring. But if you bet on Trevor Lawrence, if you bet on Dak Prescott, if you bet on Jared Goff, if you bet on those guys to be in that, remember that range they were coming into the season, like somewhere between 12 to 20. And you were like, if I can just get a top 10 season out of these guys, that is better relative to what people were paying for Justin Herbert or for Bo Nix or for Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? You just paid a little bit more for those guys, and they've literally flip-flopped this year. I mean, those guys I mentioned, Baker, quarterback 18, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback 5. And that doesn't mean T-Law is better than Baker. And the mistake might be T-Law is now quarterback 9 and Baker's quarterback 20 in the offseason, because you're like, I'll just buy Baker now and I'll sell Trevor. You know what I mean?
It feels like a little bit of an overcorrection. Like, I understand that Baker's year has been awful, objectively awful, but yeah, he's probably not QB 20 bad.
And that's the nice list. I mean, T-Law, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy after his Monday night game. I mean,
Brock Purdy is, I was thinking about Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy on the way to work this morning. Both those guys are probably guys that people want on their rosters because they just exploded in week 16 of week 16, which is most of our fantasy playoffs. That's one of those things that's going to, is it vividness bias? I don't know what it's called, something or another, but it's going to be something that sticks in people's heads. They're going to remember how Brock Purdy threw for 5 touchdowns and Trevor Lawrence had 5 touchdowns in that week, which could give them, I don't want to say artificial value, right? But it's definitely, it's not a likability thing, but it's definitely, I guess, a feather in their cap to help their value.
Well, I mean, call it what it is. It's going to be recency bias going into the offseason. I mean, people are going to remember that those guys are coming off strong years, and there's no way it can't just continue. I mean, interestingly, T-Law has the best quarterback game all year. That was in week 15. And then he literally followed up in week 16 with the 11th best quarterback game of the season. So it's like, not only has he had a great year, but he's had a couple just massive games where if you had him, I mean, I think a lot of, maybe 5 or 6 of my teams have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, and they're in the finals. And it's because I was just kind of forced to play him, and you've captured these last 2 weeks, which have been absolutely huge. But I think in general, those, you can include Goff and Purdy in there. I think those 4 are the ones this year that you didn't have to pay QB1 prices for. They were kind of in the next tier of, yeah, sure, I'll take them and I'll take my chances, because all of those guys have been pretty good in the past. And here they are right back into the mix as top 10 quarterbacks next year. The only one I think people will not overcorrect for this year will be Jared Goff.
Right.
Because he's kind of been here already. He'll be 32 years old, 31 years old. Like, he's just kind of there. I don't see him ever rising above what he has been. But I definitely see Purdy, T-Law, Dak. Like, when you get to the quarterback 10 through 12 range, people will pick those guys over CJ Stroud, over Jordan Love. You know what I mean? The guys that hurt you down the stretch, people will pick those guys over them. And I don't think there's that big of a difference.
You know, it's
They're
funny
on the
is,
nice list.
Yeah, if you look at it, right, I'm just looking at KTC. We haven't mentioned them in a while. Brock Purdy is behind CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Bo Nix, Jackson Dart. Why? I can't, in Dynasty, I can't give you a reason he should be behind any of those guys. Next up is Jalen Hurts. If you wanted to put Purdy right next to Hurts or even slightly above Hurts, I'd be okay with that. I'd understand that. But he should easily be in the top 10 if we're just looking at production. And then Dak just about every year is a top 10 quarterback. And he's like Goff. He's in that realm of that. It's just never going to change their value.
So these guys are on the nice list. How do you decipher their value not whether you can get X, Y, and Z, but the difference between somebody, let's say somebody has CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. Are they really itching to go trade for Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy with the guy? Like, are they really wanting to quote unquote upgrade if they have to give up extra assets to do it? Like, it feels like that's where the gap is. Even though KTC says one thing, the gap is typically like, man, I have Stroud. I don't want to go pay you to upgrade from Stroud to Purdy. You know what I mean? Feels like I'm willing to just let it ride, that maybe my guy will have the Baker, the T-Law, the Dak year, the next year, and he'll be back in the top 10. What do you think?
I would say let's just look at their histories, right? CJ Stroud, where is he at this year? And he actually had not a bad year, right? Never mind. That was just this week. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the average for the season. Yep. QB 24, CJ Stroud. Like, dude, what? Yeah, I will add to him to go move up to, what's that guy's name? Trevor Lawrence, and I would add to him to get up to Brock Purdy.
What's the ad look like? Are you trying to do it? Because I think when people say I'm going to add, it's like, sure, but you have to add in a meaningful way to the person that you're selling to. Like, a late second doesn't get it done. Like, if I'm selling you, I acknowledge that if I have a quarterback room of T-Law and Dak, it actually makes sense to try to down tier back into the other guys that didn't have such a good year if I can get a plus. But as soon as I say, hey, Shane, I'm willing to down tier, you have Love and you have Stroud, what do you want to get done? My down tier becomes, it has to be something meaningful to me. The 211 isn't meaningful. You know what I mean? Like, what would be the line of what you would truly pay? Like, if I gave you, here's one. If I gave you the 205, would you give me the 106?
No. Out of here. I'm
not. As soon as you're having to give up like another legitimate starter, you're not doing it, right?
I mean, a 106 is more than a legitimate starter. Legitimate starter.
But I'm giving you the 205.
110, 112. Dude, 205 is trash. It's trash. If you look at the hit rates, it's garbage. As currency, it's fine if that's the only reason you're buying it. But 2 seconds don't equal first. 3 nickels isn't 20 cents. That's not how it works.
So you give me. You give me Breece Hall and Jordan Love, and I'll give you the 201 and T-Law.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Okay, so basically, you're willing to take the bath on the other side of the deal as long as you're getting.
I just traded for T-Law. Oh my God, I don't think I've done that in 4 years.
Well, okay, so that would you do that? Would you do that as a 2-for-1?
Give me. I got to get something back.
You give me, here's one. You give me Quinshawn Judkins and Jordan Love. I'll give you T-Law. He's damaged goods now, Shane.
He is very damaged. He's got a broken leg. Have we heard back
he's probably worth like a late first-ish, right? I mean, his name is bigger than that, but Well,
just I wanted to go check something out on Quinshawn. Because this was something that I was noticing all year was his what's the word I'm looking for? His street value was a little outsized compared to his actual production.
Oh, you mean like the fact that he didn't have a good game since like week 7?
Yeah. So, and he had one really good game. I don't even know if you'd call it really good.
He had one great game where he had 3 touchdowns against the Dolphins. After that, he averaged about 8 points per game.
Yeah. So Quinshawn, I don't want to get people mad at me. So never mind. I won't even go there. Quinshawn's not as good as I hope.
Shane,
I love Quinshawn.
It is a legitimate. This is reason why I brought it up. That is a name where the bark is much more fierce than the bite. Like, people act like he is just the next superstar. And now that he has this injury, and even though he's supposed to be back from this injury, how many guys have we seen with these ankle dislocations, Shane, where they're not the same until a year after?
Right.
They're not as explosive. They don't cut as well. Like, I don't know. This is a big time for Judkins. Like, it's hard to argue he's really even worth a first.
I am less concerned with Judkins' injury as I am his lack of targets. Because
that's fair.
If you want a running back to be special, unless they're Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley last year, but even he had a decent amount of targets, you need targets. You just do. Like, that's the separator. That's the thing you can lean on. Jahmyr Gibbs was absolutely dog water this week, right? Rushing. What do you have? 5 yards? Something like, I don't know what he had. It's something minimal. but he went out there and got a ton of targets because he's got a skill set for that.
And Judkins isn't on a team where he's going to get 15 touchdowns either. So it's like he's on a team where it's like, man, they have to rebuild their whole offense to begin with.
So if we're talking about naughty and nice, Judkins was nice. But if you held on to him too long, it was naughty. And now you have nothing but coal in your hands. Just nothing but coal.
Any quarterbacks that were naughty for you that just absolutely crushed you? And the injuries can count, but I mean, just in general.
Yeah, injury wise, I mean, Kyler, or not even injury wise, just altogether, Kyler. I mean, it's the guy that we both had probably, I don't know now, but probably both of us had him rostered more than any quarterback. And it's funny how it's digressed because at one point I was excited that he was my QB1 on a bunch of rosters. And then it was, well, if he's your QB2, you could do a lot worse. And now it's, damn, he can't be my QB2 because he doesn't have a job. Now he'll end up somewhere next year, but he completely shit all over you this year. Luckily, I fortified my quarterback positions with Marcus Mariota's and Joe Flacco's and Jacoby Brissett's and was able to scrape through in pretty much all of my leagues. But that's also because I only fortified those rooms because I was already, I don't want to say worried about Kyler, but Kyler wasn't producing at such a level that I felt my quarterback room was secure. So Kyler for me.
Yeah, I think from a dynasty portfolio standpoint, Kyler, just because you had to hold a sunk asset for a long time and you're not going to get a chance to get return for it probably for a little while longer. He does have a very tradable contract, but I'm willing to put him kind of on the to be determined list.
I'm just saying for what he did this year.
Well, but at least for this year, Shane, he just went away.
Yeah, there is that.
You know who was real naughty? Sam Darnold.
Oh, I was just looking at him, dude. I was just looking at him.
Sam
Darnold.
Guys that were like, they played I mean, yes, I know Michael Penix got injured, but like these guys that just play every game and then you look up and you're like their quarterback 25 and you just continued to play them because they were your QB2. Those are the ones that really, I think, burn you this year. Stroud is kind of in that conversation too, but those guys that especially stayed healthy for the most part, and you just continued to play them because they felt safe. You know what I mean? And especially Sam Darnold early, he got so much pub as like he was a great quarterback for the Seahawks, and the Seahawks are a winning team. But like, have you paid attention to his fantasy numbers, Shane? Like he's like a low end quarter. He's like a high quarterback 3 every week, where you're just praying that he gets a touchdown. Like he does. I thought Sam Darnold was athletic, Shane. Remember when he used to be able to run? He averages like 3 rushing yards a game.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one to go into next year with. Like, what is he even? Besides, he's a locked-in starter.
He's stuck on your roster. That's what he is. He's stuck on your roster. You know why? Because you can't use him for anything. You can't use him for anything.
I mean, wouldn't you rather have Kyler over him now that the season's over?
Yes, because at least Kyler can run. And I haven't even looked at the stats. I got to look up Darnold. What do you have, 15 points per game this year? Kyler's never been that low.
14.7.
14.7.
He only had 4 games where he was over 20. He had a bunch of games where if you would have started him, you got 15, 16, 16, 17, 8, 9, 8. I mean, it was just a lot of games where you just got nothing but replacement level production. To where if you would have just started Brady Cook, you had a chance to get the same numbers, you know?
Yep. Kyler Murray's worst year this year, 16.2 fantasy points per game. He's still 2 points better than Sam Darnold. Generally, he's in that 18-point range. So, I'll take Kyler all day over Sam Darnold. If I could trade Darnold straight up for Kyler, I would do it. But I don't know that people would do that. Maybe they would, just based off the sentiment of what they think Sam Darnold is.
Bryce Young is another one that, believe it or not, he's probably going to be in the playoffs, Shane, and he had 9 games below 12 points.
Yes.
Now, he did have that 131-point game where he just went nuclear, but how many people actually started him following his previous 3-point game and 1.6?
No one. No one.
He's one of those where, like, his big couple games followed a previously terrible game. And a lot of people were like, man, I'm starting Mariota over him. I'm starting somebody else, and then they don't capture it. And he's going to be the locked-in starter. So I don't know what you do with guys like Bryce Young. I mean, the other one I didn't mention was J.J. McCarthy. I mean, he has another injury. That's his, I think, 4th injury now that has caused him to miss time. I know one of them was literally a knee injury that cost him all of last year. But, Like, what do you do with these? Not even the Kyler types, because I think Kyler, once he goes to a new team, there will be a window of excitement where it's like, oh, he can be a QB2 on that new team, and you're fine with it. But what do you do with these guys that are below that? Darnold, Bryce, McCarthy, Penix. Like, what do you even do with them? Because you don't want to get rid of them because they are starters, but like you can't sell them for anything meaningful. So how do you treat them?
Hold on. You treat them like Joe Flacco, Marcus Mariota, Aaron Rodgers. That's what they are. They're spot starters. They're guys that you can slide in. They're not guys you should ever count on.
So if you have one of those as your QB2, do you need to supplement that with more backups and stuff?
Yeah. If I have Bryce Young, I probably want Marcus Mariota. If I have Bryce Young, I want Sam Darnold. You know what I mean? If that's how I'm building my quarterback room, I'm assuming I don't have enough capital to just go out there and go, okay, I've got Josh Allen and Drake May. Like most of the time you can't do that. So yeah, I'd be fine. Fine's a strong word, but if I have one of them, I hope I have at least two of them.
So one more quarterback and then we'll move on, Shane. Is Santa Claus going to deliver us good news for Jackson Dart's future? Where are you at on him? You were extremely high on him. Then he's not been good at all. In fact, he hasn't really been able to play worse in the last month since they fired his coach. Like, where does he truly stand? Because I've heard quite a few people from like a football NFL perspective that say he just hasn't developed at all. That he was fun when he was playing reckless with Dayball, yes, but like he hasn't really developed as to. I'm not sure what we have. We thought for sure we had a hit. Future franchise QB, but do we know for sure what we have with Jackson Dart?
Absolutely not. The problem with Jackson Dart is a couple things. It's twofold. He doesn't know how to take care of himself. So then you see things like this week where Mike Kafka basically built a cage around him. And I think I got to look up the exact number, but it was something like on 14 straight first downs they ran, because they didn't want Dart throwing unless they absolutely had to.
So then why is he in the game?
Exactly. Like, then take him out, put Jameis in there, because you're not trying to win. I mean, and just maybe you're just trying to lose. But if you're just trying to lose, why are you putting your future franchise quarterback on?
If you want to lose, just put Jameis in.
Yeah, just put Jameis in. It'll be high flying and it'll throw some interceptions, and that's not what you want from Dart. I'm worried about Dart because more of the injuries than anything else. More the concussions, the fact that he's been checked for a concussion in half the games he's played. That's, it's just, that's not tenable. That's not something that you can continue to do. If we're still talking about this next year, where he's had, another 2 concussions and he's been in the tent 7 times, his value is going to take a severe dip. It will. Right now, people are still holding on to the fact that he can get better. He can change his play, his style of play, and stop getting concussed. What if he doesn't? Even if you like the talent, what if he doesn't? His value is going to dip. Tua, who I've never liked, but Tua had a really good year one year, right? He led the league in passing. And even his value wasn't as high as it could have been because of injury concerns. So that's going to be my concern with Dart. And the problem is there's 1 game left this year for him to show us that he's actually learned not to run into things head first.
I think people will forgive him if there's nothing else that happens and they hire a new exciting coach and Malik Neighbors comes back. I think people will forget about it for the time being. But I think the thing with Dart is if it happens again, Shane, if it happens again, right, where he gets he just gets knocked out on a run or something like that, it will crop up. He will start to get labeled as like, I can't trust this guy. And that will ding his value Tua's play also has declined a lot since his concussions, but his value really never recovered. You know what I mean? Look how long it's taken for Chris Olave didn't have any concussion issues, and it is still followed him to a little bit of degree. If you're like, Chris Olave is elite, people will go, I don't know if he's elite because he has these concussions. Like, it will take a while for him to escape that stigma if it happens again. But I think if we get to the offseason, they hire a new coach, I'm sure they're going to talk up Jackson Dart. Like, he's amazing. He's going to get better. Wait till you see him with this new coach. And then you have an asset that's moving upwards going into next year. But let's go to receivers. Any receivers let's start with the naughty list for you. Any receivers that just absolutely have been bad this year?
Let me look
stand through out to you.
Yeah, let me look through it.
I have
DK Metcalf for one.
I mean, is that figuratively or literally?
No, not figuratively. Like he didn't physically assault me, so I'm fine. I'd say on a much lower expectation scale, but I was hoping for a lot more. Rashid Shaheed. I was really hoping that he was
He
going to
got
have.
traded. I'll give him a pass. Anytime
He
you get
wasn't doing
traded,
it.
it happens.
He wasn't doing anything before that either, though. And obviously, there's Justin Jefferson,
Justin Jefferson is a good
Jamar
one.
Chase.
He's only averaging 19 points per game, but sure.
Who is?
Jamar Chase.
Hold on. Let me see something. Hold on. Let me do some math. How many breakout weeks did Jamar Chase have this year? Do you? Let me ask you this: when you roster Jamar Chase, is it the 19-point weeks that really get you your dick hard?
Jamar Chase hasn't scored a touchdown in 7 games. That is why his points have been lacking. But he's still,
I get it. But for what you want from Jamar Chase, right? When you have Jamar
him to
Chase,
be 2 or 3 points higher than that, yes.
And you also expect there's going to be a 40-point game in there. And I know that's it's a crazy expectation, but that's kind of what you expect. You expect a crazy week out of him somewhere, at least one of them that just carries you, Maybe not a Puka week because that's insane. Maybe not a Gibbs week because that's also insane when he had, 80 points or whatever. But there is more spiking that you expect it to be.
I mean, he did have 3 games of 30 points or more.
Did he? Yeah. Hold on. Well, then what the fuck am I talking about?
And then he did have 2 other games at 23 and 25.
Just disregard everything I said.
So Shane, he had a good year.
No, you know what it is.
JSN disappointing when he scored 24.
You know what? No, you know what?
Like if he doesn't score 45, he's killing me.
No, you know what it is recency bias. We were just talking about that, right? So I'm going in and I'm looking in my finals and I need Jamar Chase to carry me and he doesn't this week. But so clearly I just overlooked the fact that he absolutely had a fine year then.
No,
so
his last 4 games, he's literally just been your typical, like he gets you 9 for 100. No touchdowns, nothing. Just he doesn't kill you, but he doesn't.
And then you know what? And then
you're used to him having 1 game in the fantasy playoffs where it's like 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's his whole career. So
that's just recency bias on my part then, really. Yeah. I mean, because he did all his damage. I don't want to say all of his damage, but he did the 30-point games all came in the first half of the season.
Early in the year, yep.
Right.
And scored a touchdown in a long time. And that typically is he's been a big touchdown scorer in his career. And when he doesn't score one, it's like normally you're used to getting games where he gets 2.
And there's multiple seasons within a season when you play Dynasty, right?
Yeah.
So those first 8 games, sure, he definitely helped you. Absolutely helped you. But it was those next 8 games where he's just and again, all I remembered was apparently the last 8 games. Like the last 8 games were, I don't want to say mediocre. That's not the word I'm looking for. But for his standards, they were mediocre.
Yep,
that it made me forget the first, half of the season when he had some boom weeks.
I was going to, who's had a similar trajectory to that has been CD Lamb.
Yeah.
He's not killed you. He's had double figures every week.
Right.
But a ton of games where he's only had 3 games this year that were over 20. And 2 of them were in the first 7 games. So since then, he's just been, it literally is. Him and Chase have been very similar. 10 for 100, 8 for 90. Like those games don't kill you.
No.
But those are also a product of being on offenses that are favorable for fantasy. You know what I mean? So is Puka, but he has a 12 for 150 and 2 touchdowns. Like those are the kind of games that technically win you an entire week. Any other naughty ones? There's a few in here that are just. Justin Jefferson is obvious. There's a few others that I'm looking at that, you look at where they're going to finish. I'll tell you one for me.
Okay.
That has just completely, Rome Odunze.
Oh.
The first month, it was like, this guy's a stud. He's top 5 receiver in Dynasty, and he's attached to the Bears. He's their clear number 1 in an offense that's only going to get better. Now, their offense has gotten a little better, but God, he's gotten worse. He's only had 2. I know he had an injury and missed some time, but he's really only had 3 good games all year, if you count anything above 15 points. So what do you do with a guy like that? Because he's still probably their best option, Shane. But it feels like, man, if you think Luther Burden's good, if you think Colston Loveland's good, if you think Rome Odunze is good, you could sell me on any of the 3 being the best option, but I don't really want to pay the price for any of the 3 names. So I don't know. What do you do with him?
So I'm not going back and forth, but there's a guy in one of my leagues. He's in the championship. I'm not. So he's looking for a wide receiver. So I offered him AJ Brown for Garrett Wilson in a second. Obviously, I'm charging a tax. Because Garrett Wilson ain't playing this week, as far as I know. I'll go chat back and check later.
He's out for the year.
Yeah, I know.
Shutting him down.
Being facetious, Scott. Haven't used that word in a while. And he's just like, I kind of value those guys similarly. Like I don't want to add a second on top of Garrett Wilson, which all right, fine, I get it. I would because I'm just trying to win. But anyway, he asked me, well, what about Rome? And you would ask me 7 weeks ago, I would have been like, awesome, let's do it. But you ask me now, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to touch him right now. That does provide you a buying opportunity for him, though, right? Because he's not going to be overly priced. He's going to be a guy that you could probably get for the 110, 111. And I think I won't mind dipping my toes a little bit into that.
So did you take that deal, or are you still pondering it?
No, I'm not doing that. Not for AJ Brown. No, he wants to win in the championship. He's going to pay up. If he doesn't want to pay up, then I'll hold on to AJ to next year.
Is there a way you can get both?
Garrett Wilson and excuse me.
Yeah. Is there anything else you can give him that
probably
would even it out or no?
Not no, because it's one of those things. How when you keep adding things to it and you never like the scale, like it'll just never get to where you want it to be. So no, it is disconcerting that their offense has gotten better without him, right? It's kind of like we'll get to this guy, or we'll just bring him up now. Brian Thomas Jr., complete disappointment, naughty all year, just absolutely trash bagged. And their offense is fine. Their offense is as good as it's ever been without needing him, without needing to feature him, I should say, right? Yeah. That offense took a 180 when it got Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers turned around that offense or made it elite when Brian Thomas Jr. couldn't. And the offense was elite without Brian Thomas Jr. And now it's still elite, but he's just a cog. And that's kind of what worries me a little bit about Rome too, is because Chicago's offense their offense has looked better and they haven't needed him for it.
Well, here's another one. If I told you that this rookie receiver averaged 13 points per game and a 24% target share, you'd say that's a pretty good rookie year, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel that if you had a Mecca Ibuka and you've started him every week, Shane. That's another one that started off like Roma Dunze, but even hotter, even a little longer than Roma Dunze did. But where do you put him? Like in the end, if you're just comparing him, I know you're a big cohort guy. You compare him to other rookie seasons, you would say he's had a top 20-ish rookie season for a rookie receiver historically. But how much does it concern you that it has been the opposite of what you'd want it to be? Like he should be getting better, not completely invisible now to guys like Chris Godwin.
Right. And it's funny, right? Because if it was reversed, if that's the way that it went, awesome.
It'd be wheels up for next year because he's exploded with 30, 20-point games at the end. Instead, he hasn't had double figures one time since week 10.
Outside, after week 5, he averaged 8.6 fantasy points per game. Yeah. I mean, that's...
and that was one game in there with 23.5. Every other game since week 5 has been single digits except for a 10.4.
Right.
So it's not, he's not even giving you, like you thought, he might be a little lower ceiling. He's not even giving you a floor. Like he's not even giving you 5. He's not even giving you Jacoby Myers numbers. You know what I mean? So it is concerning. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's it. It's concerning. And it's concerning that it happened when the runway was wide open. During this period, Mike Evans didn't play a bunch of games. Chris Godwin didn't play games. Jalen McMillan wasn't back. If you're the alpha, you should absolutely eat during those times, right? But Cade Otton's getting 11 targets, and I don't want to say
it can't be both, right? You can't argue there's too much competition, but then when it all goes away, you don't do anything,
right? And that's the thing. So people will point to the last 2 weeks with with Mike Evans being back, and people will go, "Oh, well, that's why his season ended the way it did." But all right, well, what about the 7 games before that? What about the 4 games or whatever it was when Godwin and Evans didn't play? Why didn't he destroy worlds? I know he had some good games in the beginning of the season when those 2 didn't play, but in general, after the first 5 games, he's been mediocre. I mean, I don't even know if he's been mediocre. But all that said, what's his price? Because everyone's a buy at some point.
Well, what I was going to ask you is Have you seen enough from Igbuka to decide? And some of it is the story you have to tell when he had his production with Evans playing earlier in the year, and then everybody went away and he didn't produce, and then everybody came back and he still didn't produce. Have you seen enough to bucket him in a range where you're confident he's never going to be a difference maker?
No.
You said this with JSN, and then look where we are now.
Yeah,
but,
so no.
Okay.
Because he flashed it. He flashed it. He showed he can do it.
Okay.
Right? And that's
enough for you to hold on to be willing to maybe buy above market to get more of him, even though it didn't end well.
I forget what Scout said it, but he said something to the effect of like, once I've seen it on tape once, I know you can do it. Now, just, obviously, can you repeat it? And he did. He did repeat it. So he's definitely not a guy that I would say, oh, well, his ceiling is, I don't even know, someone mid-tier. I can't even think of mid-tier people. They don't even run across my brain.
But does the same apply to a Dunze or no?
A Dunze, I'm a little more concerned because it's his second year, right? So we expected a giant leap.
Okay.
And we did have it for a little bit. But again, it's not like I'm giving up on a Dunze. It's just I'm not going to pay what it probably would have cost you to get a Dunze before this year to get him now.
Okay. Any nice receivers that you wanted to put in here that maybe are a little bit of a surprise? I have a few. Any come to mind for you?
Let's see. Let me go here. George Pickens is probably the first. I know we all, not all of us, but we said, oh, if George Pickens was just in a better situation, what would he do? Right? Because his Trinity score was good in Pittsburgh. He wasn't the problem. And then he got to Dallas and he smashed. And outside of like 2 bad weeks in a row that he had, he was pretty stellar most of the year. Does Rashee Rice count? Like, would that be? I know he had that 8-game suspension, so that
sure.
that kind of hurt.
He was really good for the first month that he came back, and then
he came back and smashed, and then he kept getting blown up. Yeah, he kept getting absolutely hit sticked. Boo. I mean, Jamo's been nice. Jamo took another step forward, and wow, my guy, Wan'Dale Robinson, my dude, my little guy. I was getting him for thirds in the offseason, and I know I'm not alone. A lot of people were getting him as throw-ins and as thirds, and he gave you a couple really well. He gave you one really high week, 28 points. He had 30 points another week. He gave you some consistent scoring. He wasn't a guy that you had to worry about just completely donutting. He did have some low scoring games, but all in all, I think considering what you paid to get him, you can't be mad at someone that gave you wide receiver 21 production at the end of the day.
You know who he kind of feels like? And it's weird because he's just had a strange career trajectory. But remember, like, he tore his ACL as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
And he started off pretty good as a rookie. Then he came back from the torn ACL, and you were like, oh, he's just coming back. But I think, remember, because he was not a first-round pick, remember how tiny he was? Oh, he's too little. You know what I mean? So it feels like you lost because this was a guy that was an early declare, productive in college, second-round pick. And because he tore his ACL, he was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And then I think everybody bucketed him as a guy that never had any ceiling. And then, of course, last year he had the 140 targets, and it was absurdly meek production on 140 targets. But this year he's done a 180, Shane. He's going to probably end up with around 140 targets, but he might get 1,000 yards. So I think it's interesting. Like, we kind of eliminated him as a profile that could be a steady wide receiver 2 type. But, like, truly, what is the difference between Wan'Dale Robinson and Zay Flowers?
Do you want to know the difference? One gets an insane amount of target share. That's the only difference.
But my point is that
I get you.
They're very similar. He's in that range of the non-difference makers, but you never had to pay difference making or even valuable production for him. But you compare Wan'Dale to like Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, those types. Like, he's not that far off, but the names still throw you off when you put him in those buckets. So that's definitely the real question is, do you buy Wan'Dale going forward? Next year when he's wide receiver 37, are you going to pay that price for what he's done, or are you going to go for someone new? Because I think you have to draft somebody in there, but this is the type of receiver that if you are going to fade that like more valuable wide receiver 2-3 range of players, like, you don't buy into Wan'Dale next year unless it's even cheaper than all the other guys that are in the same range.
Yeah, I'm not going to start paying seconds or high seconds or whatever it's going to cost for him. No, I'm not going to do that because I bought him cheap. I have him enough leagues. I don't need 70% Wandells on my roster. The 28%, considering that I paid nothing for him, that's sufficient. I'm good there.
So I'm going to give you 4 names, and if I told you one of these guys is a top 20 or better receiver next year, which one would you bet on?
Okay.
Quentin Johnston.
No.
No, we have to pick one.
Okay.
Quentin Johnston,
Mm-hmm.
Alec Pierce, Michael Wilson, or Christian Watson.
I will go with Alec Pierce.
Alec Pierce. Okay. Why Alec Pierce?
I mean, is it rudimentary to just say he's better than those other dudes? I mean, first of all, it's going to be.
He is a free agent. Are you assuming he goes back to the Colts?
Yeah, and I'm assuming they give.
What if his quarterback is Anthony Richardson?
Well, then this is a whole different story.
What if it's Daniel Jones and he can't move?
Daniel Jones back there in like a scooter, like a leg scooter. Yeah. No, Alec Pierce. I think Alec Pierce, for one thing about Alec Pierce is he continued to get a lot better throughout his career since he's come into the league. I know QJ's gotten incrementally better. As well, he's gotten a lot better considering where he started from, right? But I think Alec Pierce didn't really jump that much this year, to be honest with you. It's funny when you start looking at it and you go, wait a minute. I don't know if my thoughts are actually correct. Anyway, who was my 4th guy?
I honestly think I'd rank Alec Pierce at least 3rd, maybe last of that group.
Over
I have Michael Wilson, Christian Watson, Quentin Johnston, or Alec Pierce. For me, situation absolutely favors Quentin Johnston of the 4.
I mean, the situation favored him this year, though.
Well, but again, he still produced the same as those guys, and he was in a situation that got markedly worse. He's going to have a quarterback next year.
Uh-huh.
And the way they've played when they've had their offensive line, that is an environment I will buy into the 3rd option. If he can just be the 3rd option, he doesn't have to be the 2nd. If he can just be a focal point of the offense to a degree, I can buy. And I'm talking finished top 20. What is that?
Yeah, I know.
13 points per game, 14 points per game. It's not crazy. Guys were between 11 and a half and 12 and a half. So
I mean, Michael Wilson's closest to that this year. It would be fun in in Arizona. Like they move on from Kyler, obviously, and then they just move on from Marv too. They're just like, this isn't it. It's not
only
his
second year though. It's not going to happen.
And then Michael Wilson is a top 10 wide receiver next year, but that's not going to happen.
I think I'd honestly put Michael Wilson last of the 4.
Yeah, because
I think there's probably 2 equally or better target getters on their team. Yeah. And whether you think he's better than Marv or not, he's not going to get the first looks over Marv. He's just not.
Look, this is more, tongue in cheek. There's no way they're going to move on from Marvin Harrison so that they can feature Michael Wilson. Not in this lifetime. And yeah, he's got Trey McBride there anyway.
Why isn't it Christian Watson, Shane? They do everything that the Chargers and the Colts do. Now it feels a lot more volatile, but dude, he's got nobody that he's competing with.
No, that's not true. He's still got Jaden Reed. He's still going to have Matthew Golden. He's still going to have Bo Melton, Dontavian Wicks, just random ass dudes, Savion Williams, just because that's what the Packers like. That's what they like to do, right? We thought that the targets would eventually coalesce around Matthew Golden at some point this year. That didn't happen. I will say this about Watson, though. When he first came back, and I don't know how many games it was, the first, Jesus, wasn't even that much. So when he first came back, his target shares were pretty impressive, and he really saw good targets in the middle portion. I don't want to say the middle portion of his year because he didn't play a full season. But I don't think they ever want to target one wide receiver enough for them to even be top 20. It's just they don't want to do that as much as we'd like them to do it.
He did score 11 points per game in his first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And then he had the injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came right back and was as good as he was prior to the injury. So if I had to bet, I'd probably rank him 1. I'd probably rank QJ 2. And then it'd be between Pierce and Wilson. But I think those are 4 fascinating cases of guys that are going to end the season as wide receiver 3s. But I'll tell you what, all 4 of those guys, they are much closer to the range of Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jordan Addison. You know what I mean? And those 4 all have big names. Oh, former first rounders. They're going to be studs. They just need to be unlocked. And then that tier below that are not the sexy names that nobody really had on the radar coming into this year, all of a sudden you're like, I'd rather build my wide receiver core with the names we just talked about rather than the 4 that were former first rounders that everyone thought, well, that guy's worth at least a first, you know, and there is a gap there.
And you can probably get something added to those dudes.
Or if you're in a startup, just don't be tempted to draft Jalen Waddle in the 5th round. You know what I mean? Just pass. Wait till round 8 and get somebody else.
One of these guys. You can get one of these guys much later in the draft than you can from Waddle, and you're going to get similar production. The only thing you won't get is the name cachet. But that's as of right now. Let's say Alec Pierce goes out there and scores 14 points per game next year. Michael Wilson's not going to do that. Quentin Johnson goes out there and scores 15 points per game next year. That name cachet will increase.
Naughty list. A few other guys I have to add to the naughty list, Shane, that I'm just not sure what to do with going forward. What do you do with Ricky Pearsall going forward? Is he just a guy now?
I was what's the word I was looking for? I was basically told I don't know ball at the beginning of the year. So because I didn't like Ricky Pearsall. So suck it.
They say his name right, Shane. It's Pearsall.
I don't care. When he earns the right for me to pronounce his name correctly, I will. I don't care. I don't care what his name is. You know why? Because he's not on any of my rosters. How cheap can I get him? Can I buy him cheap? Did he play last night?
No.
He was injured again?
Yeah, he did not play.
Okay.
He is week to week, so he's probably done till the playoffs.
Yeah. And this was my concern with Ricky, right? He doesn't play. I mean, that's a pretty important trait that I like in football players that are on my fantasy roster. I like when they're able to play the game. And, you know, unfortunately, for whatever reasons, he's, you know, not discounting what happened to him in his rookie year. In the offseason, there's nothing he could have done about that. There's probably nothing he could do about injuries.
I mean, he played more games as a rookie than he has this year.
Yeah.
With different nagging injuries. So it is a problem.
And it's a long-term thing. It's not like it's just popped up in the NFL, right? There's a reason.
Yeah.
It happened in college. And I mean, that's my biggest issue is that he can never get on the field. And I don't know, like if you can't get on the field, right, and you're not elite and you don't have that, I don't want to use the word cachet again, right? But you haven't been in the league long enough to build up like a resume. Like there's no continuity there, right? Like when he comes back, why should Brock Purdy automatically just go, all right, we left off with you getting 8 targets a game. I'm going to pick that right back up. No, that's what you do with George Kittle. You know what I mean? That's what you do with Christian McCaffrey. You don't do that with Ricky Pearsall.
See, Christian McCaffrey doesn't get injured ever.
When's the last time
he's been on the injury report?
He's been healthy this year somehow. Yeah, with 700 touches all season long. We just kept going. He's going to get injured. You're going to keep. He
voodooed the rest of the team. He sold out all of the negative juju to every other player, so they would get injured, but he would never get a scrape all season.
I don't know what you can get for him, to be quite honest with you.
They're not. Here's the thing: they're not going to count on him anymore either. They need to rebuild their receiver core because you thought, oh man, with Debo, Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings, they're set, and every one of those guys is probably out of the mix. Debo's gone. Jennings is a free agent. There's no way he comes back with them basically refusing to pay him anything, even though he was their best receiver. Ayuk's gone. Pearsall's just going to be on the team because he's a rookie, but I don't think they go into the season like, oh, he's our wide receiver 2. We're counting on him. Like they need to rebuild their receiver core. So that's a very interesting situation. They almost have to draft a receiver really high. And it'll be interesting to see how people value them. Xavier Worthy's another one. What do you do with him?
I mean,
like, what is he? He's actually been worse than Pearsall this year.
What's the term for not a roster clogger? Because that's not what he is. But for practical purposes, he ain't much more than that. For practical purposes.
Well, you know what's funny? Didn't you think Xavier Worthy had the potential to give you some boom week, Shane?
Absolutely.
What was his best game this year? Any clue?
13 points.
Okay, 17.
That's close.
But after 17, which is ironically the first game he came back when everyone thought there's no way he can take a single hit.
Mm-hmm.
He scored 17 points. Never was over 11 after that. Not once. And the concerning thing about Xavier Worthy is he was riding one of the environments that I said all year is one of the best environments. But it seemingly was like, oh, Tyquan Thornton somehow had multiple games of more than 18 points. Hollywood Brown had more spike week games than Xavier Worthy. Travis Kelce. So it was just one of those where this was the year for him to even have just a couple pop games, even if he had a bunch of bust games. Like, he's just a really hard player for me to figure out, what do I have? You know, like you thought, okay, I have maybe the second option on a Mahomes offense after Kelce retires. I can live with it. But I don't even know if I have that.
I don't.
That's a naughty one that I'm a little confused as how to approach going into the offseason. But like Pearsall, like, what can you even sell him for? 2/3? A second, maybe?
So it's one of those things where, like, Caleb Johnson, geez, ultimate naughty. Just shoot that guy.
We'll hit running backs in a second.
But anyway, like, if he hits next year, I'm going to have a ton of them, but it's not because I believe in him. It's because I can't move him for anything of value. So what's the point? I'll just hold on to him and wish against hope that he actually turns out to be usable at some point.
What about these names that were definitely naughty for the year? Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, Jerry Jeudy.
Darnell Mooney.
Jerry Jeudy hurts because it felt like that dude had a breakthrough last year. And he immediately just.
Well, these were all just like cheap receivers you thought you'd get some production out of. And at least Ridley went out early and you never played him. But like, there were some weeks where I just kind of threw those guys in, hoping, hey, maybe they'll get back to what they were last year. And they just never got there. And then one more that I think he's even below Pearsall and Worthy. But what do you do with Keon Coleman, Shane?
Okay, so he's basically a fancy.
What do the Bills do with him? He probably is valued to the Bills like we value him in Dynasty.
So here's the thing. They prefer to give snaps to Terrell Shavers and Brandon Cooks over him. Mm-hmm. That tells you all they need what they think about him. He's not important to their offense in any way. He's not. Yeah,
they got Gabe Davis off the street.
Oh, Gabe Davis
instead of him, and then they benched him. But still, I mean,
yeah. Either way, I mean, it's just roster clogger. That's basically what he is. I mean, maybe he's a guy that can get a second chance somewhere else, and maybe it'll turn around. When's the last time that it's actually happened?
It seems like the next step for Keon Coleman is he's looking for a fresh start.
With the Browns.
No, it's the fresh start narrative.
Yeah.
But really what that means is the Bills, who, keep in mind, have no good receivers, are also giving him a fresh start. You know what I mean? It's basically, we don't think he's any good. So if someone else, please take him off our hands. So anyway, let's hit running backs for a couple minutes before we're done. Naughty or nice? Any running backs have been real nice. McCaffrey, Gibbs, JT, Bijan, Achane, James Cook. Like, those guys have all.
Achane, baby. That's my guy. It's my guy.
Winners are close too. So.
Yeah, Achane. I think RJ Harvey over the last, since J.K. Dobbins got injured. Naughty. Ashton Genty, because he sucked sucked is a strong word. He didn't give you.
If you still were alive and you had Ashton Genty, you're still probably alive again.
There's a problem. You were starting. I had Ashton Genty actually in a few leagues in the playoffs.
So did we in our consolation.
Yeah, woohoo. But that's not what we expected, right? We expected a top 6 season out of him. That's what we expected. And he didn't really give you that monster week until week 17, 16, whatever week it is. And a lot of teams weren't even in the playoffs anymore because they just kept running him out there.
Any others besides those guys? I mean, you mentioned Harvey. I think there's a honorable mention should go to Travis Etienne.
Travis Etienne is absolutely not even an honorable mention. That dude, absolutely. Because he's had several weeks where he's carried teams.
Just for what you paid. I mean, Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren, Javonte Williams. Like, these guys all came from I'm not sure they're good running backs anymore, so they're just pretty steady RB2s, like 15 points per game, 14.5 points per game, multiple big games, multiple multi-touchdown games. We're startable every week. We're healthy almost every week. That's another one. Javonte Williams and DeAndre Swift and Travis Etienne, like, they didn't really get hurt. I think Swift and Warren missed one game, but like, Those were not the guys typically you'd say, oh, they're going to get through the year totally fine. And that's what you asked for. Like, you didn't pay even RB2 prices to get them. And they showed up. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell is another one. You know, Shane, he's real close to setting like the record for running back target share. It's pretty crazy. Like, he's going to be a running back. You're going to look up and go, he's like 20th in the league in target share. You saw him in Philly. It didn't seem like a guy that they misused. They probably could have used him this year, to be honest.
He stepped his game up.
Yeah.
He's definitely stepped his game up. And you know, Pittsburgh was in a position where they had to throw him the ball. It was DK Metcalf and him. Like,
and remember when he came out, he was always lauded as a good receiver.
I love
Philly just wasn't the spot for him to be used as a weapon in the receiving.
That's not how they use
Aaron Rodgers. Yes, his whole goal is to get rid of the ball quick.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It is the perfect marriage, right? Because Aaron Rodgers does not want to get touched. So the first sign of danger, or even before that, he's just getting the ball out.
Here's one that might be on the naughty list, and I think he might have played his last season as a member of his team. What happened to David Montgomery, Shane? He now just became like a handcuff.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs
not really startable. For years, he was startable alongside Gibbs or Swift, and now no more.
I mean, Gibbs is just too good not to give him a lion's share of the work. But even then, Gibbs still only had a 62% opportunity share. So it's not like the opportunity share was absolutely crazy, but it's enough that David Montgomery is not good enough to get by on a 40% opportunity share, I guess.
And then finally, will any of these guys live to see another Christmas, Shane? Hypothetically, we're not talking real life.
Yes.
They'll be fine, hopefully.
Yes.
Aaron Jones or Alvin Kamara? Do they have another year left in them?
They have another year of people thinking they have another year in them.
What's that mean from an application standpoint? Are they guys you would sell for 2/3?
Yes. Just get them off my roster. Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I might. No, Minnesota's got to completely revamp that backfield. There's no way. I'll hold on to Aaron Jones. At least Aaron Jones played this year. Alvin Kamara just stopped playing. I mean, I know it was due to injury, but I hate giving up guys for thirds. You know what I mean? Or thirds, getting a third for a guy. That's
I think I'm willing to go back to the well with all those guys.
I just hold on for a third. Yeah, I'll just leave them on my roster, right? And next year, if there's a window where they recapture some of the glory days, then you can move them.
Any other running backs come to mind for you before we sign off?
Naughty, nice. Saquon, very naughty.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, mildly naughty.
Breece Hall, naughty?
Yes. You know what? Yes, a lot.
Ken Walker, naughty?
No, you know what? I think you got to blame yourself. I think you got to blame yourself for Ken Walker if you kept running him out there.
Was that just more you just kept running out the name Ken Walker?
Yeah, because you weren't looking at the usage. Because if you were, you would know at best it's a split backfield with Charbonnet getting the high value touches.
Yeah, some of these guys, Breece Hall, Ken Walker, they're free agents. Be interesting to see how they're treated in the market.
Now, I love Breece Hall right now if I could gobble him up, because there's not a situation that he could land in that would be worse than what he just went through. There can't be.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, we could probably talk through players for another hour, but it is Christmas Eve. We want to wish everybody again a happy holidays. Kind of just a fun show. Good luck if you got to the finals this week. Take home the ship. Real quick, Shane, what is your thought on chopping pots?
I'm fine with it. I did it twice today. Another league, dude was like, "No, I'll play it out." I said, "Okay, that's fine." Like, we had one league that for first place it's $900. For second place it's $200, and I didn't even know that before I offered to split the pot. And dude's like, he's like, yeah, I'll take that. And then he told me what the actual pot was. I was like, that's a pretty wide gulf. What about you?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with more maybe like a 60-40 type thing. If the pots are the discrepancies 80-20 or something and you want to do 60-40, maybe make it so it's like maybe an extra 10% for the winner. But listen, I think we all appreciate how hard it is to get this far.
Yeah.
And some teams I expect to win. Some teams I shouldn't even be there. So I figure if you split some pots and you let some ride, it'll all kind of even out. But I don't have a problem with it. And, nobody should really care. You either win or you don't, but we don't as much as we like to say we count championships, in the end, it's about, getting some of your money back and playing to live another year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want, look, I split that pot in that league, so that's 5 years buy-in, I think, right? I think that's the math that works out to. It's $100 plus I got extra $50 to go do something with. So I just bought 5 years of that league if I'd like to keep playing. So yep.
Good luck getting anywhere with that 50 though, Shane.
Yeah, no.
Like you're dunking coffee in the morning. It's getting close to 50.
It is.
Anyway, well, good show. Naughty and nice. Who are the players that are naughty or nice for your fantasy team in week 16 or for this season thus far? Again, good luck in the finals. If you made it, hope you take home some ships, and we will be back next week to be determined on the time. Might be live, might not be. But we will have an episode next week talking about some dynasty resolutions for 2026. So again, happy holidays, and we're out.